To have a good learning environment, the teacher should first always remember the influence of dopamine. According to David A. Sousa and Judy Willis, dopamine is one of dozens of neurochemicals and hormones that not only influence learning, but also can be activated by certain environmental influences and teaching strategies. Engaging students in learning activities that correlate with increased dopamine release will likely get them to respond not only with pleasure, but also with increased focus, memory, and motivation. The goal is to keep all students engaged and participating because only the person who thinks actually learns. When the learning environment does fail, it's vital to have 3 steps in the process of recovering back to a dopamine open environment classroom. Those 3 phases are prevention, management, and coming up with a resolution. I will provide 3 example scenarios demonstrating the 3-phase plan if complications within the classrooms do occur. In this scenario, a student was painting on another student's painting. So the question is, what do we do to resolve this? And there are a few ways. Here's one of them. In order to prevent stuff like this from happening, it's important to pay attention to students' attitudes and emotions. Having students staying active and giving the students a meaningful lesson will actually provide enhanced motivation, and it'll keep them focused on their own artwork and not other students' artwork. If a scenario like this can't be prevented, it's important to first distract the class, and this can be done by playing music. And it's also important for the teacher to go over there and separate the situation. Place yourself in between the problem and try to fix it. In the realms of managing it, they should first separate the students. Once the scenario has been managed, it's important to come up with a resolution because we want students to feel safe and open to talk about anything. So the teacher should first talk to the individuals alone, starting with one of them and going with the other. And it's important to get their feelings out, to really know and understand what's been going on with the situation, what the problem is, and to be genuinely open about it and understanding. Once that's done, it's important to have the student who's been painting on the other student's painting apologize for the things they've done and get them to want to apologize, not force them to. After that, it's important to address their own artwork and to fix it because this is an art classroom. And one of the good things to remember is that art can be fixed, just like the issue at hand. The teacher should first start with the student in the blue, for example, and tell them that their artwork is not in vain, that it can be fixed. And once they help them, then they help the pink student to fix their own artwork, because in the end they are probably frustrated within themselves for not coming up with a painting that satisfies them. And it's important to work with them and have them vent their frustrations out on the artwork and not on other students' artwork. In the classroom, we as teachers battle with the amygdala of the students. We want the amygdala to be on our side in order to learn. The amygdala can keep us from paying attention. According to James E. Zull, sensory input is continually screened for possible negative emotional content by the amygdala. If we instinctively sense difficulty of threat, our actions will not be controlled by our sensory cortex. Therefore, our instinct is to fight or flight. This next scenario deals with the student's amygdala and emotion in full circle. In order to first prevent this event from happening, the teacher should have placed a lesson plan that uses clay as a means of productivity, functionality, and a way to channel energy and focus with their hands into the work of the clay and not with the students. Of course, fights are out of the realm of prevention at times, and this causes serious action by the teacher. When this scenario can't be prevented, the first step is to make sure other students involved are free from harm. They should be moved far away from art areas that could become dangerous, such as ceramic pottery wheels or electric kilns. After that, a quick emergency call to the office is important if the teacher needs any backup. Finally, if the fight continues, the teacher should step in by grabbing one of the fighting students from behind, wrapping their arms around the student's belly, and turning them away from the other fighting student, causing the teacher to be the block between the fight. If the students fight within the classroom, they lose their permission to be asked to be pulled away. The fight, in the end, will need help by the office, and once they come, then they can assist on the problem. With this scenario, because it was a fight, students will automatically have to be taken to the office, thus creating a quick resolution unlikely for the teacher and his or her fighting students. However, once they do return, it's important for the teacher to individually communicate with both students in a quiet environment in case of a sensitive subject and confidentiality for their feelings. As the teacher is communicating with the students, they should be working with clay because it was used within the fight. Having the students work with the clay in a non-threatening, calm environment will help the students' amygdala to respond in a way that is no longer fearful or threatening, allowing learning to be taken well into the art room. The teacher should also make a note to separate the students for the future so they can focus on their clay and not with each other. The biggest thing to be sensitive to is emotion when dealing with a safe, open learning environment. ECS, or emotionally charged stimuli, is what teachers need to boost in order to connect between students' frontal and back cortex. When students have high ECS levels, it relates to their expansion of curiosity and risk-taking. According to Zoll, as children grow, they expand their experimental databases. The more experiences they have, the more likely their brains will find a fit when comparing new experiences with previous ones. This connection allows them to acquire and apply their new knowledge to solve problems, learn from their mistakes, and become better decision makers. It's simple to say that everyone makes poor judgments. Students face judgments every day. It's the teacher's job to assess these problems and gear the student's mind into learning from past experiences and doing better for their future. Scenario 3 deals with a student making a poor judgment in the realms of stealing. The best way to prevent this scenario is to first have an open environment that emphasizes ideas of sharing in the art classroom. Reusing and borrowing materials should be welcomed with open arms. If students need to use supplies, he or she can check out the needed tool or supply. This can be done so by having a checkout board, where students write down their name and what they took, and then sign when they have returned it back to the teacher. Being open, honest, and willing to share everything with the students makes them more apt to feel like they matter and are a part of something that involves trust, responsibility, and integrity. If the teacher does think stealing has occurred, He or she should make a note of the issue first, documenting how he or she witnessed the students appearing to take supplies without making assumptions or automatically blaming them. After this, the teacher should keep a closer watch on the student. Supplies should be moved closer to the teacher's desk, where a close eye can be kept on them. The teacher won't always be able to prevent this. And if this classroom magic technique doesn't work, then it's time to do something more. It's in the teacher's best interest to talk one-on-one with the student alone. The teacher should first talk about their home life. Make small talk. Make sure everything's going okay between the student's family. After this is done, the teacher should slowly lead into the art project that they're working on with those supplies. Maybe ask how their supplies are going. Can they afford them? What's in their head? You want to know what they're thinking. But the teacher should be mindful with the student's emotions. They should talk about the materials being used, and then slowly lead into the idea of stealing. Only if the student admits to the act of stealing, then it's up between the two of them to come up with a conclusion and find a way to stop this from happening. Only if the stealing continues after the talk should the office and the parents get involved. Classroom management is fundamental in providing a safe, open atmosphere where students can thrive to learn. To have this right management, teachers must remember dopamine influences within the classroom, maintaining the amygdala in the realms of curiosity, and using ECS as a means of a positive learning and self-growth tool with students. When dealing with classroom management, we must always remember to prevent, manage, and resolve. Only then may we provide the proper learning environment fit for the fresh new minds of the 21st century learner.